Welcome to the Best Music Podcast, where we see behind the curtain and discover the hidden habits and success secrets of noteworthy music makers. I'm your host, Dan Spencer, and this week's featured guest is Javier Rosario. Guitar virtuoso, composer, bandleader, educator, and recording artist Javier has attended the world-renowned Berklee College of Music with a full scholarship. In 2010, Javier earned his master's degree at the Longy School of Music at Bard College, where he was awarded a presidential scholarship. Javier has performed with Joe Lovano, John Lockwood, Matt Savage, Zachary King, Scott Kiefner, Aaron Holthus, and Avery Logan, just to name a few. He is a guitar adjunct professor at Bunker Hill Community College. He is a faculty member at the Community Music Center of Boston, Passim School of Music, Amigos School, and Morse School, all in Massachusetts. Javier received the Community Music Center of Boston Marilla MacDill Award for Teaching Excellence and Community Service. Javier has been a visiting professor at the National Conservatory of Music since 2009 and a visiting artist and music thesis judge for the International Music Program at Universidad Pedro Enriquez Urena. Sorry, everyone, for my accent. Javier is a community engagement programs teaching artist at Community Music Center of Boston and the Hurley School in Boston South End, and he was granted the Community Music Center of Boston Professional Development Grant for Creative Youth Development in alignment with cultural inclusion and social emotional development. Javier released his debut album, Javier Rosario Trio, Volume 1, A Celebration of Life, which has been critically acclaimed and received international radio play. Links to the release and Javier's social media are in the video description if you are on YouTube, and in the show notes if you are on audio. Javier, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to come chat with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love your guitar collection in the back.
Thank you very much. So speaking of guitars, Javier, before we started recording, you mentioned that when you went in to record this album, your debut album, there were no overdubs. There were no punch-ins. You sat down and boom, one take the whole way through. Tell me about that process.
Well, I wouldn't say one take the whole way through, but many takes of each tune, and then you choose the less messy one. So that's how that went back then in 2019, I believe. And now we're going to the studio in a couple of months, and then it's going to be less stressful because we're going to have isolated booths and all that, so I can punch in if I need to do something. I cannot remember. So the trio tracks on A Celebration of Life, they so no overdubs. I cannot remember if it's the same thing for the solo tracks. I may have been able to overdub something because it was just me. That was quite an experience.
Man, and it comes across in the record. The whole record just feels like so raw and so emotional and just like gritty. Do you know what I mean? Just like, it's right there. It's like you can hear every note. And now that you're saying that you had to go through in sort of one take each track at a time, the sound and the vibe makes so much more sense because it almost sounds like a live record. I was listening to it and I was like checking the description of the record to see if you guys recorded it live, and it turns out, well, kind of, but typically we think of a live record as like, at Birdland or at the Blue Note or something, right? But this was at the studio, but still live.
Yeah. And that was with my friend Jake, and he had told me for many years, Jake Party, he said to me, you should make a record. And I said, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. And then several people in my life were pushing for it. And I'm like, well, what do I have to lose? And then we went to the studio and we recorded. And I remember that I brought several musicians the first day with different people. Then the second day was the one that I liked the most, the energy and everything, because for me to be able to record and travel with people, I have to really enjoy their company because you really play as you are. No way you're not going to play how you are. So I really have to like you as a person and have that chemistry with you. And the second day that definitely happened. And I think we recorded the entire thing in 5 hours. And then we were done. And then I got the takes. It was just like this massive just like MP3 after MP3 after MP3. And then I'm very good with my bandmates, with Zach and Scott. And I said, look, these are the ones that I think are worth it. What do you think? Nothing will be put out there that you do not approve of. I will not do to you what many have done to me.
Oh.
So it was approved by everyone. And I think that this one's going to be even better, or I hope.
Javier, tell me about something you just said. You said you play how you are. Can you talk a little bit about that, the emotional truth and the state of mind truth that is translated through music in the moment?
Yeah, sure. So I actually was recording this morning with the trio for the NPR, the Tiny Desk contest, because I would like to. So we are applying for that. Let's see how it goes. And I remember what one of my friends told me, that if you lose your concentration once when you're playing, it's really like a car crash. Well, that was my interpretation of what he said. I'm paraphrasing. So it really, just imagine that you're in your car and you're driving in a highway and you have to make a turn or whatever, or there are tons of cars and you have to get ahead of somebody and you lose your concentration. What do you think is going to happen? So nobody dies in music, but the music kind of dies when you begin to do that and when you lose your concentration. So really, I have to be in the moment, and you practice basically the art of letting go. So for me, I begin playing and I play what's in the moment right in front of me. Right in front of me, I play just that, and I stay true to what I hear. So not coming in with any agendas, but of course you have your vocabulary and what works for you, and technically you know what to go for and what not to go for, but you're still in the moment. So I have the tendency to just dive in and let the music take over me. I was in the studio recently, and I knew just as assignment for the album The Groove Reawakens with the Matt Savage Group Experiment, and we were in the studio for 2 days, and the only thing, my intention behind it was, I really want to be in the moment. I want to be present. And I continued to ask for that in my heart for about 2 weeks straight. And when we went to the studio before we began playing, I just heard a very powerful voice that said to me, come with us and follow us. And it was just such a powerful experience because I felt that I just let go in that moment and the music was being played through me. So ever since, I just tried to do that and just say, yes, I'm here, present myself, and then let the music take over. Let the music be played through me. So inspiration, really, when you're in the moment and when you play as you are, you're never alone. That is the thing that you need to understand, that you're never really alone. People that have come before you that do what you do, that are not physically present, meaning the people that have died, they like nothing more than to operate through the hands of those who do what they once did.
And taking that even out of a metaphysical context, we could think about it as every single generation of musicians that have come before have built on the work of the previous generation. And it's like, think about it like Charlie Parker couldn't go listen to Charlie Parker, right? Charlie Parker had to be Charlie Parker, right? And he had to build off of what he heard before. And now for us, we can go back and listen to Charlie Parker. And I don't know, who's building off Charlie Parker and in what degree they're building off it. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. But like, we can go back to the generation, we can build on top of them. So I think even for people who aren't thinking about necessarily the actual spirit of someone who's passed being with them, they can think about it as the actual output, which is, in a sense, is the spirit of someone, right? Their art lives, and their art lives through us in the moment when we are creating, because no one is self-taught in music, right? Everyone, you hear someone else play, and then you build on what you hear.
Absolutely. So I think that inspiration for me in the moment, inspiration for me comes from being in the moment and saying yes to what's in front of you. Just saying yes, I'm here, I showed up, I am available. Just play through me, just let the music take over. And for me, it's just that, just being connected with all of that music that you heard before, all of that inspiration and all of that work from somebody else that has influenced me not just musically, but personally. For instance, one of my biggest heroes is what's this guy that's featured on the movie The Imitation Game? The father of computer science. What's his name?
Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch played him. Turing.
Alan Turing.
Turing.
He's one of my heroes. So for me, just even having that influence of him in my life, it certainly has changed the way that I feel about the world around me, or music. Or for instance, when I went to the Van Gogh exhibition here in Boston, where I live, just being there and knowing he went through tons of mental issues, health issues, and yet he was able to paint. He found the people that supported him, like his brother, for instance. So you always have that inspiration available to you. You just have to show up and say yes and let it take over.
Another point, going back to what you said about being present in the moment and needing to have the right people around you. Can you talk about what that means to you, to have the right people, where you have the right relationship with those people to allow you to be in the moment?
So can you think of your closest friends in the world and inviting them to hang with you? How will that look like? What will that sound like? What will that make you feel? So it's really all about trust, that it doesn't really matter what you say, they know what you mean.
Oh, dude, that right there. Oh,
they know, because they know you, they can see you, they can read you. It's like you're hanging out with your soulmates. So it's basically like the meetings of the minds, but you're really there with your soulmates, and they can see you, they can hear you. You don't have to explain them anything, because they know you. And there is no better hang or better interaction than the people that get you, your soulmates, that you just show up and they say yes to you.
Yes.
Because they can feel you. They can hear you. They can sense you. They know what you're about. That you can say anything and they will just laugh. They know what you mean. They know your heart. That is what the music is like with Zach and Scott. And this morning I wasn't recording with Scott Kiefner because he couldn't make it. So Zach and I were recording with our really close friend, Leo Weiskopf, who's at the New England Conservatory. He's finishing his studies, and Leo is a brother, so Leo knows. We just look at each other and we laugh. And it doesn't matter what you're laughing at. You're laughing, you're healing, you're expressing, you're loving, you're in the moment. It's trusting. And really, once you know the music, you just let it come out the way that it's going to come out, and it will not be perfect. So you just have to love it how it is, accept it by how it is. Because for so long, I didn't make a record. So before a celebration of life, everyone will tell me, well, you're ready to make a record. And I'm like, no. That sounded like Giant Steps. Did you hear that? Sorry. I was just like, no, I am not doing that.
No.
Exactly. And it's because we were playing that this morning as a joke. I was just like trying to cheer up my bandmates, and I was just like playing that. And wait, what were we talking about before we began laughing? I don't think it matters.
Javier, can I just say that, like, my takeaway from this is so amazing, because you bring the energy of yes to the moment. And it's like you show up to people who give you that energy of yes. And then you're all giving each other yes. And because you're all giving each other yes, everyone's in the moment. Everyone's saying yes to the music. Everyone's saying yes to the inspiration. It's like positivity, abundance, just yes, abundance, yes. Oh.
If you want an abundance of music, you have to be great. You have to wake up and really just commit to, I can really have a good day. I know it's been a tough week, but I know that I can have a good day. I know that I can talk to my friends and say, hey, so this is what I need to be able to succeed. Can you support me? Hey, these are the things I want to talk about, or these are the things I don't want to talk about. And this is how we can help each other succeed to create more music. So the less stuff that's draining. So when I wake up, I sort of like I set an intention of, I'm going to eliminate things that drain me. I'm just going to focus on the things that really bring me joy, that bring me peace. And even if there is a situation that is unpleasant, I'm not going to lose anything. I'm going to get an experience from that. So I'm going to create an abundance of just well-being for myself. And by doing so, I'm more in the moment. My body's healing. I'm in the moment. I'm playing. I'm shredding. I'm just going with the flow. And if I play a wrong note, I see that as an opportunity to play more, not as an opportunity to say, wow, this sucked. Maybe I would have told you that 10 years ago, but at this point, I will probably create a motif. I will probably just move on and not give any energy to that.
Yeah.
Because I know that those hours of creativity for us are not endless. They have a time. You're either a morning person or you're a night person or whatever. But you only have so many hours that you really have to choose what you're going to give your energy to. And it cannot be with people that I dislike. It cannot be with stuff that I don't want to do. It has to be with things that I want to do. And of course, it's life. So you kind of just have to bang around with stuff that you don't want from time to time. But you're in a much better place. You're in a place of non-resistance. So when you're going to play or to create music or to work, you're just saying yes in the moment and you're receiving it as it is. And I don't know, there is just like a great joy that comes from it. That is just easier. And it's also easier for me to appreciate what's been done in the moment. So say, for instance, that I'm experiencing some negativity. Then when I hear to the take and I hear that one mistake, I will probably tell myself, but I wasn't perfect. Whereas if I'm in the moment and joyous and really just appreciating things and taking what I call the emotional journey, appreciating more, complaining less.
Huh.
And just being more grateful and be more in the moment. It's just better that way because I can just hear a mistake in my playing and go, well, what about all the other great stuff that I played? I mean, does that get erased just because of something that I didn't like? And maybe that's perceived that way by me, but you and I don't hear things the same way. You and I don't feel, things the same way or look at it the same way. That's why we have each other. See?
Dude, this is so cool. I'm loving this. I'm loving the yes, because it's everything you're saying comes back to saying yes. It's like in the moment where you make what you might feel is a mistake. It's not the intended outcome that you intended. In that moment, you say yes to it. You either create a motif out of that mistake, right? You create a motif, or you just say yes to something else. You don't have to
exactly
right. You don't have to sit there and say no to yourself. Like, no, I did a bad job. No, we need to do the take again. It's like, no, just yes, just yes to the next thing. Just pivot to yes.
Well, immediately you say no, then you lost the momentum.
Yeah.
It's like you got on that train and it was just going north, and all of a sudden you said no, and you got off the train immediately. And to get back on is really hard to not possible at all. So I would just much rather stay on it and just go from place to place and travel kind of like at the top of my ability, and then really make a list of positive aspects, maybe in my head of the things I really loved about it. And then also my takeaway of 5 things that I want to improve on. And I will write it down, and I will read that list of 5 things every single day and focus on a couple of them and just receive the evidence of it when I listen to music, when I'm exercising and I'm creating in my head. So every time I'm walking or whatever, I'm listening to music in my head. And at times somebody's having a conversation with me and I just go, but really I'm just creating in my head, and nothing is really more important than that. Or a funny story. And so most people that meet me or hear me play, they immediately, 99% of people, they go, oh, he spends his time alone at home and just practicing or reading books. Yes, but I also like clubbing. So when I go clubbing with my friends and dancing, and I love it on the weekends, I usually wear my earplugs to protect my ears, and somebody will come up and say hi, and I'm just going, yes, but I'm really not hearing a thing. So I'm sorry to those people that I said yes to without really knowing what that was. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's always a good idea if you're going out to the club to wear hearing protection, because that stuff will mess you up for life, those levels of volume over the sustained period of time. Javier, I got a question for you. You've achieved many things. You've gotten so many different scholarships, a full ride scholarship to Berklee. There's a select few people in the world who can claim to have that. You've received scholarships to where you went to get your master's at Bard. You've received awards in excellence in teaching. All of these are outcomes of performing at a high level. What is your number one tip for people for achieving their goals in music?
Don't take a no for an answer. Say yes to yourself even when many people will not say yes to you. Say yes to yourself. Show up for you. Heal yourself, comfort yourself, really write a list of the things that you want to accomplish in life and really go for it. Now, when you go and accomplish those things, it might not exactly be the way in which you envision things, but when you receive the evidence, don't deny it. Just appreciate it and create more. You have no idea. So this is my first. So when I won the first Michel Camilo scholarship to Berklee College of Music, which was the first scholarship of its kind in the history of the Dominican Republic, I did a ton of interviews on TV, radios, magazines, newspapers. So this is my first podcast, actually. And I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I reached out to somebody who did a podcast, one of the artists that I like listening to. And then I reached out to this person, and I can't remember who that person is anymore. And that person said to me, "We're not a match." And I'm like, what is this, Tinder? Of course, I didn't say that to that person, but in the back of my head, so I kind of just like got hurt for a couple of seconds. And I'm like, well, this is not Tinder. I'm going to continue moving on. And maybe I'll have a podcast with someone. I'll do a podcast with someone. So this is my first one. So I sort of like took that powerful desire that I had and continued to do something with it. So my advice for anyone that has any goals is really just say yes to your goals, say yes to you. And not because somebody's saying no to you, it means that you will not accomplish it or anything. Just continue showing up for you and surrounding yourself with the people that will help you manifest it. Also, don't share your ideas until they are fully developed. So there is this truth that you're never a prophet in your own land. Never. Is because people, when you're growing up and people think that they know you, people think that they know what you're capable of, all those sorts of things that people just box you in. You know, the same thing with, well, Javier is not a jazz player, he's a fusion player. Well, you might be missing the point if you think that. That's up to you, whatever you think. But really focus on you, focus on your goals. And for me, I share my ideas when I'm very clear about what I want and I'm unbending about it. Meaning I'm going to go for it full force, and then I'm able to share that with somebody else that is up to speed with me. Not just anybody that doesn't know. There is nothing worse than asking the right question to the wrong person. Nothing worse than asking the right question to the wrong people. You never want to do that because in general, people seem to be lost. Their phones, this and that, not knowing what they want. At the age of 5, I knew that I was going to be a guitarist. I just loved music and I wanted to do that. So I told my mom, I'm going to be an electric guitarist. And my mom said, sure, go for it. And then in my head, I created this idea, oh, everyone is like me. Everyone knows what they want. Everyone knows who they are. And since they were little boys and girls, they knew what they wanted to do. And my friend David Lapino's a genius. He looked at me one day and he said, and you think that's normal that you know at the age of 5? And I'm like, well, I don't think of myself as abnormal. So I do think that that's normal. And he just laughed and looked at me like, you have no idea. And little by little, I discovered as I met people from all over the world, wow, most people don't know. And it really took me by surprise. And this was like a couple of years ago that I finally found out that most people actually don't know. So you really want to choose the people that you open up to. And when somebody says no to your ideas, you have to know that it really isn't about you, that the reaction isn't about you. So you have to remain focused and true to who you are and what you want. Because otherwise the world will get you sidetracked. Never do that. I hope that I answered your question.
You did. What do you think the number one mistake you've made that you've learned to now no longer make around getting to your goals has been?
Not knowing my self-worth.
Ooh.
When you don't know your self-worth, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter if somebody tells you, you'll do it. You don't believe them because you're not there. You're not in the receptive mode to really hear that message that you are worth it. And when you don't think that you are worth it, you really don't get anywhere. You kind of have to bang around quite a lot to get anything done. So you sincerely want to know your self-worth. You really want to know I mean, to put it in a whole context, that you are beautiful the way you are, that you are good the way you are, that you're a good person even when no one tells you that even through a breakup, you still know that you're worth it, that that you're intelligent. At times, the people around you will fail to tell you that, remind you of that, because they think that, well, that is why I remind my friends and my family, the people close to me, how special they are to me, how unique they are to me, why I chose them to be part of my family, or if it's part of my blood family, why I still have them in my life. So that's why it's so important to have those conversations, because they really uplift you, they really fuel you, they really bring you back to the main reason why you're doing what you're doing, because it makes you happy. So the only reason why I want what I want is because I think it's going to make me happy. Otherwise, there is really no reason to do it, because I think it's going to make me happy. I want more money because I think it's going to make me happy. How about getting happy first and saying yes to all that first? So you don't have to get there to enjoy it. You can enjoy it ahead of time to really pave the road. So there is nothing more powerful than positive expectation. So really, what I've done is just know my self-worth. And even when so many people have rejected me, look, so I got a gig as an adjunct professor at Bunker Hill Community College, and hello to all of them, and Mark and Rika, the people that have supported me. But I have to tell you, what's not in my bio is that I applied for college teaching jobs for 11 years. And for 11 years, all I got was rejection. Rejection when I heard back from somebody. There is also that silent rejection of most people that never got back to me. And every single one of those applications took me 4 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, just like soul crushing, soul draining. And at the end, somebody said yes. And that validated me, validated my career, my effort. It sort of like told me, yes, you're worth it, you know it, and we see it. And that's just so cool, because now I have something else that I'm doing that really makes me think about music in a different way. People that I can help, but also people that also help me. Because when I go teach, I always walk out with something for me. It can be as a person, it can be just something that I learned as a musician. Or if I explain it this way, I can even absorb it in a deeper way. I can process it in a deeper way. I don't have to think about it as much. I can just hear it now, or something about my personality or people in general. It could even be just how to be more clear with my boundaries with everyone. That ultimately brings me peace, that ultimately brings me joy, that gives me more space. And then I can say yes to more things. Then I can wake up just in a better mood. Then I can just show up and play more. And then I can laugh with you on a podcast.
I mean, can I just say I'm so glad you're here laughing with me on a podcast. Yeah. The gift of teaching is that you learn so much by teaching. Javier, let's get tactical for a moment, or perhaps we'll stay strategic. What's your number one piece of advice for people of any instrument about practicing? What have you learned that is your number one thing, the number one thing you would like to tell people for practice?
Sure, you have to become an excellent practicer.
Ooh.
So as you get older, time gets short and short and short for you. So it doesn't mean that you will not be able to practice. It just means that you have to know how to practice. And that you have to be very intentional about what you want to accomplish that day. So if you just pick up the guitar and you play, so you're working and playing, that's great. But if you want to get better at something specific, you have to really dive in. And there are things that really scare you about playing. We all have that. Dive in right there. So that fear, knock at the door every single day and walk in. Knock at the door every single day and walk in until that thing that scares you no longer scares you. And then you have less things like that in your life. And you're going to see that manifestation of it in your playing and in music, but also in your personality, also in your interactions with others, that ultimately is going to impact your playing. So I will make a list of 2 or 3 things that I want to accomplish daily. And for instance, the revolutionary thinking behind practicing is, for instance, I want to get good at practicing rhythm changes. So, or a blues, a major blues or a minor blues or something. I will probably practice that five, no more than 10 minutes a day. So that I can practice on other things, but it's the consistency of that every single day or every other day that ultimately is going to have the biggest impact in your playing. So it's not about, I am going to do this for 5 hours and then for a week I will not do this again. No, it's just that daily consistency, but also another thing is mental practice. So 70% of what we do is really mental, at least. But if you can really visualize the instrument in your head, the notes, and work it out mentally, when you sit behind the instrument, you can already hear it or kind of sort of hear it. You can see it, you can imagine it, but you're activating that creative process before you get there. So you can feel it, you can hear it, you can see it, you can imagine it. So you don't have to trigger that. That's already paved for you because you already did the work ahead of time. And when you're behind the instrument, you're saving time. So you really have to become a really good practicer. And those are my tips for doing that. Just be intentional about what you want to accomplish and really hit that target every single day. Record yourself and listen back to it so you can see how far or how close you are to doing that. And really just stay consistent with your practice. So even if you only have 20 minutes of practice, really unplug from social media. I turn off my phone and I focus for those 20 minutes or those 5 hours, just whatever I can do. But that daily consistency is what's important. And not because you're away from the instrument means that you're away from music. Not because you're away from the instrument means that you cannot practice. You can mentally practice and work it out. And everything gets better that way. So you're always tuned in. You're always in it. You're always in that creative process. You're never divorced from it. You're never far away from it. You're as far away from it as you want to be, as you choose to be. But you can really stay tuned to that, stay in that track, and really, to make a reference to what I said before, receive that inspiration. And that inspiration just comes back to tuning into that thing that you want to do and letting it take over and saying yes to that. And again, you begin to receive. So what do you think? So when you have said in your life, well, that was a great idea. Can we play from there? Can you tap into that and can you play from that? And can you say yes to that place where that great idea came from? Can you really analyze where that came from and really try to stay there to receive more of that, more great ideas? So that's what it's really about for me.
I think I would add only one thing to everything you just perfectly said. And that is for people who are new to music, the intentionality around practice also needs to be in line with what you want to do. So if you want to play your favorite songs, spending 3 hours a day on scales is not what you need to be spending time doing. It's a useful technique. It's useful to know the instrument. But I think having that goal that Javier just talked about, it's like practice for that goal, in service of that goal. Just to be clear, because I know what you said, people who've been in music are instantly going to get it. But I think for someone who's just starting out, just adding that one little qualifier in there, that intentionality also goes into going to the goal and not doing all the extra stuff, all the shiny buttons that are around that you could practice. Javier, when it comes to developing and deepening and being creative in that moment, is it really for you just about saying yes to the moment and then just trying to stay in yes in that moment?
I think so, but there is also the physicality of it. So, for instance, it's easy for me to say yes, 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 but because I have developed a technique on the guitar that allows me to say yes. So I think that, to be fair, it's just like, well, I can say yes because my hands are always saying yes. So as long as I'm warm, my hands will cooperate with me any day, anytime. And I don't even have to warm up to be able to play a 16 notes, I don't know, 240 or something like that. So, but I think I'm blanking. Because I went just somewhere else, like I went my way. What was the question that you asked me a moment ago?
So being creative in the moment. So you were saying that, you've put in the work to develop the facility, the technical ability to say yes on the instrument with your hands to whatever idea your mind has. Your mind has an idea of what you can play. Your hands can say yes to that. But can you talk more about that moment of saying yes to creativity, what that looks like?
Yeah. So say, for instance, I teach, I think that the closest I can get to the answer, probably this way. I teach group guitar classes at Community Music Center of Boston, and I have to work with kids who are 4, 5, and 6. And I really love it because maybe we create a chord together and each one of them will get a note.
Yeah.
And then we can all play one chord. So you can even be creative. So everyone can be creative with what they have. They even make up, songs, compositions. They are creative even with open strings on the guitar. So it's really kind of like a mindset that you're going to create something. And if you don't like it, you can change it. If you don't like it, you can try again. But you can really work with what you have at, just with the level that you have and where you are in your music playing. You just have to, so improvisation is all about that. It's about creating in the moment. So I will just say, and try to find good words for it. It's really a skill that you develop over time. So the best thing to do is to just do it every single day. And whatever you don't like, you don't have to repeat. And whatever you like, you make more of it. Meaning, whatever you like, treat it as a motif, don't treat it as a lick.
Ooh.
So that you can then expand on that.
Oh, I love it.
You like that?
I love it.
I had to search for it, but it finally came.
Oh, that's amazing. And just for anyone who doesn't understand what a motif is an idea that you would then develop on. So like Beethoven, ba-ba-ba-bum, and then he goes, ba-ba-ba-bum, and then he goes, ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum, right? And so, right. So that's motif. You take one idea and then you develop on it. That's amazing. I think another question for you is, you've reached this super high level of technical proficiency. What do you think the answer is for people who are at different levels of that? Like where should people get off the train? Like the technique train? Because the technique train, you can ride it as far as you want and for as long as you want, for as many hours as you want. Where should people get off the train?
Well, the technique is simply to serve your creativity. So the technique, the speed is nothing to me, but having that facility to express myself at different speeds. Or even when I'm playing slowly, it's just having more ease when I play slowly because I know that my hands can play faster. So the faster you can play, it just makes the lower stuff more effortless. You just flow better that way. So the technical stuff also, to talk about it, really, you're never done with it. You never get it done, really. It's like you're there and maybe you need to relax your body a little more. And as there are things that are stressful in your life, in your daily life, then you build up, this tension around your neck or whatever, or your arms. And technique is also you letting go of that tension so that the hands can really flow. So for instance, I teach a doctor and I feel really funny to talk to him about these things, but I begin to tell him that tendons really begin right here on the neck. And then they go down all the way to your arm, your forearm, your hands, all that. And if you're twisting your neck, you're doing this to your tendons. So you have to learn how to relax. So even that part is part of the technique, just learning how to relax, just how to breathe deeply. For instance, if you turn your head up or down, you're compressing the air tract. And that makes it much harder for you to breathe because if you relax your neck and you take a long deep breath, it goes quite deep. But if you do this and you turn your head and you try to take a deep breath, it's incredibly short. That begins to affect your muscles. That begins to affect your
brain.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Well, I'm forgetting the word, your stamina. That just begins to really affect your game. And if you have to record for so many hours or practice for so many hours or whatever, really you're adding just these points of tensions and destruction to your own playing that it will not allow it to flow. So technique is never really done. So technique, it shouldn't be looked at as just the speed that somebody may have, but about the wellness of their body when they are playing, and their body responds to their instrument, whatever their instrument is.
Javier, you're like a musician philosopher, man. You've thought about this stuff so well and so deeply. It's honestly, it's so cool to talk with you. It is so cool to talk with you and hear your thoughts on this. It's really amazing. And I know everyone who's listening to this is going to be getting so much value from just the positive way you're bringing all this information, because it's just yes. It's yes. Just being yes.
Well, so how about if I name my next album that? Just yes.
Oh, put me in the liner notes. Put me in the liner notes, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. I love it. I love it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Javier, I think I have one more question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking to you, so keep me here for as long as you want, because
Okay.
it's really a good conversation. So for me, it's not just about receiving all these things, because there is a difference, between thinking about all this stuff and receiving things. So it's not the same thing to think a thought than to receive a thought. So, you kind of have to be with the right people, like I am with right now, to really receive this and to canalize it and be a good channel for that. So the well-being that I'm receiving and all that, and my positivity really is just like, I'm receiving it from you too. The way that you smile, your joy, the way that you're receiving this is really just like brings it back to me. So I'm able to give more. So this is a really good hang.
We're saying yes, man. Today, we are saying yes.
Yes.
Javier, when it comes to composing, listening to the album, you have such a unique voice in the way that you approach the guitar, in the way you think about music, in the ideas that you express. It's so clearly an extension of you. What's your number one piece of advice for other people? Maybe songwriters, maybe composers, maybe instrumental, maybe pop songs. What's your piece of advice for other people about going to create pieces of music?
Do whatever you do, make it move you emotionally. Meaning, when you play a chord, make sure that chord really moves you. That you play it in a way that really makes you want to hear it again, that takes you that out-of-body experience, that you're really feeling that with what you're doing, because a sound that's personal to you is the one that's going to really bring out that emotional experience, that emotional journey when you play. And really, I play and kind of like live for that, to really connect with that source of well-being, to really feel good. Just makes me feel good. So whatever I compose, it just makes me feel good. It just reminds me of something. It makes me relive something nice. It makes me think about something. It just brings back an experience for me, or tells me a story through that I really want to hear. And maybe receive that story in a different way every time that I play it, a slightly different way. I think that for me, when people ask me, well, how do you come up with your chords? So for instance,
good question too.
Yeah, like how do you come up with your chords? Really, a chord by definition is, two or more notes together. So really, I will just put one note after the other note, after the other note, and after the other note. And then people get really complicated and they go, I don't know what to call it. And I said, well, you don't have to call it anything. You don't have to call it anything. You just have to play. You just have to say yes and show up and play whatever it is. So for me, it's just something that really, and then, and of course I went to Berklee, so and I got really good at harmony, so I can call it a couple of different things.
Sure,
So I don't know. I mean, are you able to hear the guitar?
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of? Well, how about if I give you more volume? Can you hear the guitar there?
Yes, and I have no idea off the top of my head what to call that chord.
For instance, if I play this, it's much easier. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see. So that is
like
going to be...
9. Add 9, right?
But I also look at it as a D minor 7, because that's a D, that's an F, that's an A, and that's a C.
Ah.
So if I look at it as a D minor 7, what I can do Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I look at it that way, I begin to move things around rather than an A, which is the fifth. Maybe I have a G, which is the 11th. Maybe I no longer need the low C. Maybe I want to have, rather than a C sharp to make it minor major 7. Yeah. So then, or I don't know. So for me, a chord is just one note after the other until I come up with something. So I'll come up with a chord for you. I hope that I like it. Let me put myself in an uncomfortable key like C sharp rather than C.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this.
Ooh.
I've never played that before.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Me neither. Welcome to my world.
How cool is that?
So that's C sharp, D sharp, which is great, and then A, and then and I have a D sharp, so I'm repeating the 9th. That's okay, because here I have the 3rd of the chord, the minor 3rd, and then I have the 7th, which is B. I didn't know that at first because I was just looking at it as what kind of emotion does it give me? And then it creates the question, what do I want to hear next? And for me, it is all about that. So when I'm improvising, it's also kind of like the same way. I mean, maybe I will not repeat that because I didn't like it nearly as much, but it was just like the journey of playing one note after another note after another note and seeing where it takes me, and mainly if I'm connecting with it emotionally, which is the main thing. So, yeah.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Javier Rosario's latest release, Javier Rosario Trio Volume 1, A Celebration of Life, which has been critically acclaimed and received international radio play, is out now on all streaming platforms. I highly recommend going to check it out. Javier, thank you so much for coming to spend this time.
Is this over?
For coming to hang. I'm giving you a plug to wrap. I mean, what are we gonna do? Dude, we could sit here for the next 4 hours and have fun, but I honestly don't think people are gonna sit here for 4 hours with us while we're having fun. So
we should do it again another time because it was really fun for me.
I agree. We 100% should do this another time. This was totally cool. You have an open invitation to come back literally anytime. This was so cool. But everyone, go check out Javier's socials. Go check out the release. Go listen to the music because, like you said, it's informed by all this knowledge of music theory and harmony. And at the end of the day, Javier has found a way to go back to just being a child and just creating and just saying yes in the moment. And it's such a beautiful record. I enjoyed listening to it so much. I highly recommend it. And links for that are going to be in the video description if you're on YouTube and in the show notes if you are on audio. Javier, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy that I made a new friend.
Man, I'm happy I made a new friend today too. It's really, really, really cool to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.